Hey everybody, I am Michelle with Birdie Bloom and I am bringing you a special video that's going to go over a document that I've created recently. And this document is titled Reading a Vintage Coach Creed. It's a very basic guide on how to read a vintage Coach Creed or how to break one down. It doesn't go over all of the different types of vintage Coach Creeds. It's basically going to start with the one that actually provides identifying information, that provides useful information. Prior to 1994, the Coach Creeds only had a random registration number, and that number, you cannot depict anything from that. You can't figure out like when it was made exactly, or at least not the year of manufacturing. It's not going to tell you what country it was made in. Well, that's not true. It kind of will, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But here we go. Here's the document, guys. Oh, let me pull that away first. I just wanted to show you a look. Because I'm not really talking about a particular bag, I decided I did want to put a bag on for the video. It's one of my favorite bags. If you are in the Vintage Coach Eye Candy group on Facebook, then you know it's one of my favorite bags because you probably see me posting it quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, my look is very, what would I call it? Chill, very relaxed. I am a mom of young boys. I'm often on the go. I'm very busy, but yeah, this is one of my very go-to looks, which is comfort, functional. I'm very functional in it. I'm hands-free. Love this bag, and I've talked about it on my channel, and I also show it often in the Vintage Coach Eye Candy group. So anyways, I wanted to have it on for the video. I hope you don't mind. Okay, let's get back into it. So here we are, the document, Reading a Vintage Coach Creed, a basic guide by Birdie Bloom. We're gonna break it down. You know, this is a lot of information that I think a lot of people already have, but a lot of you don't have it. And I've seen this question asked, at least amongst newcomers, but even people who aren't necessarily newcomers. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna make it. You know what, if you find it useful, great. If you don't, that's okay too. And I think though, in this simple document, you also might find information that is helpful to you, even if you already know how to break down a vintage Coach Creed. So this creed here, this happens to be of a side pack, the larger side pack. This creed represents the breakdown of a creed manufactured in 1995. Style number at the end, month code represented by a letter, and it's always by a letter. Year of manufacturing represented by a single number, always a number, but two starting in 2004. And the manufacturing country code, which is represented here by a letter, but can also be represented by a number or two. And that kind of breaks down that first part of the creed. And then you have your style number. And in this case, 9979, again, it's a side pack. Here's a picture of a side pack. This is the larger version because the smaller version is called a small side pack. I've talked about side packs on my channel as well. So yeah, that is breaking down a creed. Again, this started in 1994 and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's break this down a little bit more. Wording in the Coach Creed, by the way, it does change throughout time and we're not gonna break that down because this is a basic guide. So here in this section, you have your codes, your letter code that associates with the particular month that the bag would have been manufactured. So A through M, A January, B February, da 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 da. Note, we omit I. And I'll talk about that too in the Do You Know section. There is no I, skip I, and you basically come through A through M. So if you see a creed, for example, that has R or T, or often seen in counterfeits S as a month code, it is most likely not authentic. That being said, there are some authentic errors in Vintage Coach, so it's always helpful to check to verify, especially if you're not used to looking at creeds. That's always helpful, but that's a big sign that you need to definitely make sure that your bag is authentic, because it's most likely not. S, is a common counterfeit month code seen. So you should only see A through M, omitting I. We'll get back into that. And then let's look at the years. The next space here is reserved for a number. Again, starting in 1994, Coach started putting style numbers and dating their bags of manufacturing. So 4, it means 1994. That's the first number that they started putting in that had like a purpose, a point. So 4, 1994. And then 5 is 1995. 6 is 1996. So on. You get to the 2000s. 0 is 2000. 1 is 2001. 2 is 2002. 3 is 2003. And then wait a second. Is 2004 4? Nope. Because we already have a 4. 4 is represented by 1994. So in 2004, Coach started putting 2-digit numbers, and that is when they started introducing 04, and then it goes 05, 06, 07, da 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 da. But did you know, we're gonna look at the bottom part here, Costa Rica, they missed the 2004 change. And some bags from 2004 made in Costa Rica are represented by a 4 and not an 04, a 04. That might be one of those tidbits that if you already know how to break down a creed, maybe you didn't know that, but that is true. And there's actually quite a few examples. So keep that in mind. How do we know that? We know that because maybe the bag style, it wasn't around in 1994. The color might be unique and it wasn't around in 1994. There's various reasons why we know that, but we do know that Costa Rica missed that change, and you will find bags that were made in 2004 in one of the Costa Rican plants are actually represented by a 4 and not the 04. Does that make sense? I hope so. Back up to that did you know section, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the letter I and why it was omitted. So why did Coach not use I in their month code? If they're going with the ABCs, why did they just omit that one? And they omitted it because it looks a lot like a number 1, and therefore it could be confusing, right? Makes sense. So they omitted it. But occasionally you will find the letter I used as a month code in Authentic Vintage Coach. I know that's confusing, and that's not fair, but people will always say, C is for consistency. The C in Coach is for consistency, and they're joking because Coach was nothing but inconsistent in a lot of things. There's a lot of errors, and sometimes the authenticity can be found in the errors. Interesting, but I can be seen used by some countries such as Italy and Hungary. And I only included those 2 on there because I didn't want to get into all of it, but I will tell you there are other countries that you can find authentic uses of I as a month code, and that would be Costa Rica and Turkey. And in the US, Plant B specifically, Plant B did a lot of wonky things, a lot of wonkiness going on in Plant B. I'd love to know where it was. And also China. So China started late 90s, early 2000s as a manufacturing country. And you can find it with some China bags as well. So then this document, if you come over to the right of the document, you are going to see, or when you're looking at the document, some other tidbits, some other information. And here we have, prior to 1994, random registration numbers can be seen. No style number or dates are present in those creeds. So you're not going to be able to say specifically what year, what month that bag was manufactured, and if it has a random registration number. You can make a lot of assumptions based on creed wording, how things are spaced, also the style of the bag, the color of the bag. All of that information can play and help you to date your bag more appropriately, but you're not going to find in that random number, any information that tells you when that bag was actually made. But I will say, in those creeds, you aren't going to be able to tell where it was manufactured. Coach only started manufacturing bags in one plant initially, and that was a plant that was in New York City. And that's why a lot of bags are going to say made in New York City. Sometime in the late 80s, they opened up other plants in the United States, and it was no longer just a single plant in New York City. I don't know where all those plants were. I don't know how many there were, but I know that there were multiple. I don't know when, the changes were made, but there were multiple, and therefore the creeds no longer said made in New York City. They started to say made in the United States, made in the USA. And so that's not plant specific, but it is country specific. And also, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to see proof or information of such, but I do believe that there were only 2 countries of manufacturing when the random registration numbers were in use. So again, prior to 1994, I am only aware of 2 countries of manufacturing. I could be wrong, because I do feel like Costa Rica might be an option, but I can't find that proof, and I asked somebody else as well, and they couldn't find it either. So could be wrong, wait for an update. But we know that Italy was a country of manufacturing with random registration numbers, and the United States. So those are the only ones I'm aware of. But you will find that in the creed. You will find the country in those creeds with the random manufacturing. So you can't get date information or even specific like factory information, but you can get country manufacturing information in those creeds with the random registration numbers. Okay, so then we're gonna come down to here. Now this is a point, it's a big point, and it's a point I wanna drive into everybody, that Googling style numbers is a great place to start, but counterfeits can have the correct style number too. And that is really important for you to remember, because a lot of people start out just not believing that, or not thinking that's possible or true, because a lot of counterfeits have the wrong style number as well. There are a few errors where authentic vintage Coach has the incorrect style number. That can happen too. People are manually stamping these or manually signing them. Errors can occur. So there's that. But I wanted from this to mention a video I'm going to do here soon, probably release it next, and it is on the requested counterfeit ergo bag that I have, okay? It has the correct style number in it, and we're gonna talk about that and kind of break it down. And yeah, because I didn't believe initially when I first got that bag, I got that one very early on, I didn't believe people when they told me it was counterfeit. So follow that video to kind of see what happened and maybe why it's actually counterfeit. So there's that. Great place to start, Google, but it is not a place to authenticate. You can't authenticate just based off of Google results, people. And then, last bit is that this guide, this very basic guide, can also help you to break down a creed in a non-vintage Coach bag. So yeah, you can get the month. They still use the month identifier. They still date it with a year, and they still are going to pair their manufacturing plant with either a letter or a number or 2. And you should see also where that manufacturing plant is located. So that will always be in the creed or in the bag somewhere. And so here I have a little picture of a little white tag. I don't know the years specifically. I know there are only specific years, and I think they've stopped doing it again, but you will find a lot of that information. You'll have the Coach creed, and it doesn't have the letters and numbers below the creed. They have them on this white little tag. So it's going to give you all of that information on that white little tag. So it's really important to look for that and find it. You can find it in pockets. It's in a seam usually somewhere, but sometimes it's in pockets. Sometimes it's just in the bag. It's really important to try to find that. And yeah, all of that information will still be on your bag. It just might not be below the creed. So Okay, well, let's see. Did I have anything else I wanted to talk about? I don't think so. I hope you like this video. I hope this was helpful. I did spend a little bit of time creating this document. I'm not really skilled at this stuff, but you know what? I had fun doing it and I like kind of how it turned out. I do hope to create more like quick learning, simple documents that might help you in your vintage coach adventures. So if you do like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more vintage coach bag talks. I'm going to post this document in my Facebook group, probably under files. It will also be located, there is a Flickr account now that has a lot of resources that a lot of us vintage coaches use to look up different things, you know, vintage coach information, Bonnie Cashin information, has websites, it has a Google Drive that has a lot of catalogs in it. I'm not really sure where this thing came from, but it is really helpful. It has the new web page that was created by Vintage Coachy, who's a huge presence on Instagram, Rachel Noir. I'm sorry if I said her name wrong. I should actually ask her how to pronounce her last name properly. But anyways, Rachel, she created this beautiful website that talks about some of the older bags that she specializes in researching, and shows pictures of the examples. That is linked in that Flickr account. There's a lot of information. So yeah, if you go to Facebook, you might not find it in the Facebook group, but you can find a link that will take you to an area where you can find all of these resources that we use. And I'm going to include this as well, just as a basic guide, right? It's also going to be printable and you can save it as well under your files on your phone if that helps you for quick reference until you it just becomes like second nature. Okay, well, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.